Well, welcome everyone to ACDM's Live Lounge. My name is Quan Doan, Vice President of Technology Solutions at SDC. And today we'll be looking beyond dashboards to where Agentic AI can guide us in the future of clinical trial oversight. Just as a preface, right, lots of terminology out there regarding AI at this point. So because we're going to be talking about Agentic AI, in this context, it refers to autonomous software systems designed to perceive their environment, process complex information, and take specific actions to achieve a goal without constant human handholding. Okay, so an equivalent to that is think about a Waymo, if you've heard of those, or full self-driving mode in a Tesla, right? So these are things that can happen without human interjection, and computer systems are making those calls for you and on your behalf. All right. So again, today we're going to talk about a little bit of a paradigm shift, right? So if you think about, even in the last 6 months to a year, in the past, we've always relied on dashboards to tell us what happened yesterday, right? So your traditional AI learning models are looking at historical information, gathering information from that, and then making predictions, right, moving forward. So as part of that kind of concept, right, SDC Insights with Sidekick AI is a clinically trained AI native platform that tells you what is happening now and what needs your attention tomorrow. So not just relying on predictions, but we are layering on kind of the latest and greatest AI technologies on top of our data visualizations, right? We've made sure that foundationally, right, we've taken the AI security into account to ensure compliance with 21 CFR Part 11 and ICH E6R3. Really from day one, right, from the baseline of our product development to ensure that we can withstand that regulatory scrutiny with transparency, human-in-the-loop validation capabilities, and allow our product to also quickly adapt to the fast-changing AI environment around us without sacrificing security, right? So again, with a closed loop concept, Sidekick ensures that proprietary sponsor data remains confidential, thinking of it as a walled garden, right? So that proprietary embedding that minimizes the risk of breaches associated with external public AI tools, right? So again, we're not looking to, push your data into Claude or Gemini in that larger environment. We're kind of copying those layers down into our protected environment and then leveraging those tools, as they stand. So let's talk about data cleaning, right? The engine of any clinical trial. If you think about kind of where data management was in the clinical trial lifecycle, even 5-10 years ago, we were always kind of last train of thought, kind of at the back end burner of everything, right? Getting sites started up and all of those fun things were the priority. But now with kind of the AI explosion and the idea of big data, real-time data, access to data all the time, right? It's becoming more of that centerpiece of clinical trials, as it were. So keeping that in mind, right, Sidekick acts as a 24/7 data manager, right? It can scan data for inconsistencies that maybe traditional edit checks and EDC might miss. It'll look at things like physiological outliers across different forms, or even look at hidden patterns, which could uncover fraudulent data or level systemic errors, right? We think about what kind of our own individual biases as data managers and how we like to clean and look at data. And we might miss those types of things. And that's kind of the beauty of leveraging an AI tool, right? It doesn't have those biases yet. That's going to pick up any pattern that it might see, surface it for us, and then allow us as the experts on data, right, to evaluate that to see if those truly are issues or not, right? And so not only will it flag those potential errors, it'll draft those queries for you. And then in the system itself, you can click verify, and now that query is set, right? So this alone reduces query management time by up to 60%. Don't have to do that copying, pasting, all of those ancillary activities, as it were. So again, looking at, what we can do in terms of data summaries and trends with Sidekick AI, right? Thinking of, even what you see on the screen here, right? We can ask multi-pronged questions. It'll summarize the information quickly for you without waiting for another group to program those ad hoc listings or reports and provide a response. So again, having a tool like an AI agent like Sidekick is like having a data manager, biostatistician, and clinical programmer right by your side at all times. And again, we can do different things with it, right? So it can give you that kind of data narrative summary you see here in the top half of the screen. You can also ask it to represent it in a tabular format, graphical formats, right? Even now as AI, agents are evolving, we can now start incorporating more visual graphics and responses and things like that. One of the kind of additional benefits of Sidekick is, and again, I think I asked this and had multiple conversations with folks in the crowd, right? How well do you guys trust AI? Are you 100% on board or not? And one of the nice things is, for those that are kind of on the fence, you can see here on the left-hand side, there's a little highlight, a little green bubble there, where that is, the ability to request SDC to validate the responses for you, right? So, we know that as AI becomes more integral to clinical trial analytics, transparency and monitoring of the AI models also becomes critical, right? And so part of the way that we've developed this is to allow the end user, with the right permissions, of course, access to an AI studio, which is built into the platform. It gives you that comprehensive visibility into the AI model operations with detailed trace logging, right? So every question that you ask, each AI inference is documented with the input parameters, the model parameters, what it actually did for processing, and those outputted results. Right? We also want to look at model metrics over time to monitor accuracy and performance. One of the things that maybe isn't as spoken about enough is, AI can have drift over time, right? So we want to make sure that the AI models, even as we're adopting new ones, right, maintain their effectiveness as data patterns evolve, as new languages and new AI models are released. We want to make sure that, even though there's a lot of data out there that can help validate, and AI is doing some self-validation, there's still nothing as tried and true as the gold standard now, right? Which is feeding your data through statistical programming, getting your outputs validated that way. And so any AI response that we provide through our tool can be flagged for validation by our own internal statistical programmers upon request. And then that will allow you to gain and develop that trust with your AI response and your AI tools. Right? And so as we kind of move on, I know lots of folks, if you guys are keeping up with the news, strides, amazing strides, kind of scary at the same time, right? With the idea of how fast these AI agents are evolving, right? These LLMs, how fast they're growing, things like Anthropic and vibe coding and all of these kind of new terminologies that come out. A lot's changed even, 3 to 6 months ago. So one of the things that we're trying to do within our tool as well is leverage those advances, right? Quickly without having to be, held down by slow validation processes in terms of how do we validate this product. So we're looking at introducing generative UI, right? So it's, again, instead of waiting weeks for a programmer to build a new report, now you can just ask Sidekick, right? You can type in a request in plain English. The system will generate the actual results for you, the actual charts and graphs, the axes, the filters, you can define those. And think of it as custom analytics without the custom code, right? What we're trying to get to is really making it very easy for the end user, the data managers, or anyone else on your team to be able to describe a situation, allow Sidekick to build it, give you, whether it's a text interface or a graphical interface, allow you to tweak that, perfect what that visual is going to look like, so that you can keep that and maintain that for future projects, right? So the ability to book items for future use allows us to pin items that have been created or prompted before, create that custom component and add that to your dashboard. Stays live 24/7, right? And then if you want to, you can share that with other team members, and that will continue to update as new EDC data flows in, as new lab or external data flows in as well. So you really, if we sum it up in a short and sweet package, you essentially just programmed an entire custom monitoring tool using plain English, right? And turning all of those one-off questions into permanent oversight tools. The other piece to kind of what we're looking to develop for SDC Insights as well is being able to create customizable AI agents, right? It's the buzzword now. You've heard several conversations already throughout the conference about Agentic AI. And again, while today's Sidekick is a brilliant assistant, right? It is prompt-based, kind of like your chat GPTs. The goal is to create a Sidekick that is a specialized suite of agents. You can think of these agents not as software tools, but as a digital workforce, right? You want to break all of your mundane day-to-day data management tasks into piecemeal items that can be consumed by these agents, so they can be effectively hired instantly, onboarded quickly, and they work for you 24/7. So, instead of just having the prompts that will answer a question for you, these agents can pursue, an active result, whether it's cleaning a data set, flagging a protocol deviation. And the nice thing is, I've worked with lots of data managers over the years. Every data manager works, slightly differently from another, which is why programmers, sometimes struggle, because we're like, we just need something consistent. But with the way that agents are being developed and how quickly they are, you are able to personalize these agents to kind of work and think like you, like an extension of you, right? To aid your teams in the way that you like to clean data. And in addition to that, you'll also leverage the other benefits of, Agentic AI, where it can self-learn, where it can remove biases and give you additional insights into your data. So we're going to transition a little bit into thinking about, how we can effectively create agents within the data management space, right? So a good example that I can think of right now is you can imagine a slew of CDM agents, one that handles all of your mapping all of your external data, right? You have central lab data, you have safety data, you have imaging data, and you want to be able to map that information and bring it in so that you can then facilitate your reconciliation. So you can have one agent that handles just the mapping against EDC. You can have a secondary agent that actually does that edit check, that comparison, that reconciliation of that data to then issue prospective queries. And kind of in parallel to that, because you already have an agent that's mapping data against EDC, you can also perform that SDTM mapping autonomously as well, right? Because SDTM doesn't change, your input data can change. So here you already have 3 agents kind of developed, looking at kind of the full end-to-end process and how do we break those pieces down into manageable pieces that agents can, kind of take on in more of like that assembly line fashion, right? Another example would be looking at, AE ConMed's medical history listings, right? I can see a show of hands, right? There's quite a few of you that are kind of shaking your head. I can see that, those are things that you are really excited about doing. It does take up a lot of time. So one of the biggest pitfalls with that reconciliation, right, is that human interpretation of the indications in your ConMeds, and do they line up with your medical history, or do they line up with your adverse events? So if you look at that process as a whole, you could theoretically create an agent that could auto code your indications, right? And then along with your medical history and your adverse event terms, now that you have both of those coded to a standard, right, it's going to be easier to map those and have an agent look at those data sets to see if you do have discrepancies. So looking at both your kind of auto-coded terms against date ranges and making sure that, those things align appropriately. Effectively, you can reduce hours of line-by-line listing review in that instance to minutes, right? And that's the beauty of Agentic AI. One last use case that, I actually worked with another consulting group that kind of had this problem. And but if you're a small, biometrics team or a small sponsor that doesn't have a biometrics team, you don't have access to SAS or R, but you need your data joined or to program manual listing checks, right? The beauty of it is something like Sidekick, where you do have all of your data in one place. You can prompt a chatbot to generate those flags for you. You can have it join that data for you, right? Didn't quite get it right, you can tweak it, you can give it some extra parameters, you can fine tune those flags and questions and store them for future use. So apologies to my stats team, right? But this is a scenario where you can leverage all of that with how quickly vibe coding has advanced over the last 3 months, right? Last but not least, it also facilitates a lot of cross-functional collaboration as well. You can leverage a lot of agents if you think about those cross-functional relationships, right? You want to help out your safety team or your PVG team, you can create a safety agent that pulls that data directly from EDC and drafts those parachute narratives, right? You guys don't have to do that manually anymore. Your PVG team doesn't have to do that anymore. If you think about Common buzzword right now, and has been for the past year and a half, is risk-based monitoring, right? RBM, RBQM, QBM, whatever you want to call it, whatever acronym soup you have, right? A lot of times you get into a room and everyone's looking at each other trying to say, well, how do we set this threshold? What's a good number of adverse events per subject for this indication that would cause us concern or causes concern for both under and over reporting, right? So we don't have to pull numbers out of thin air anymore or your gut instinct or reaction. You actually create an agent that combs through your historical studies, can comb through data that's publicly out there, like clinicaltrialsdata.gov, right? And surface reasonable thresholds that are true to your indication, right? And then allow that agent to kind of rework itself as new data comes in from your study and adjust those thresholds accordingly based on all of those new data streams. So we don't have to have that feel good number anymore or just kind of question like, where did they get that number from? We can use your historical data for that purpose, right? And that's going to make it much more accurate, much more feasible to manage moving forward. So, just recently talked about all of the benefits of Agentic AI and what we're planning to do with SDC Insights with Sidekick. And it hopefully does offer us a lot of speed and quality. But one of the key things that we want to focus on is that, kind of Spider-Man-ish, right? With great power comes great responsibility. So with the, Agentic AI and what it offers us, we do need to have governance to match that. Right? We can't lose sight of that and allow kind of the excitement of we can do all these things so quickly to kind of cloud our judgment with respect to kind of governance around that. So it goes back to we do need explainable or traceable AI, right? Models that provide clear reasoning with their decisions. We still need to have someone monitoring the model and the responses for model drift, just to ensure that AI doesn't degrade over time. Right? Just as humans, as we review things over and over again, we start to develop those biases. AI is going to do the same thing, right? Not too far-fetched from thinking about if you've seen the iRobot movie, right? It came to a determination that humans are bad for themselves. It's going to take over your data cleaning. We don't want that to happen, right? So we'll always want that human in the loop as part of the process. We are moving towards a hybrid workforce where again, AI agents can do a lot of the heavy lifting, can do the processing of the data. But we still want, a human in the loop, that human expert to validate that outcome and to make sure that we are still on the right track. So again, in summary, right, talk to you briefly about SDC Insights with Sidekick today, kind of where we're headed with our tool and our platform. Again, it's not, it isn't just a tool for today where we have standard out-of-the-box visualizations, patient profiles, and traceability. But we're looking to develop and enhance this platform, right? We want to hear from you guys out there in the audience, right? To develop a platform for the future, right? Giving you the accuracy, the ability to adopt, real-time changes in LLMs and the ability to do like generative UI flexibility, create agents to bring life-changing therapies to market faster. And look forward to collaborating with a lot of you over the next couple of days and in the various sessions that we have coming up. And again, if you do have additional questions or want to see a demo, again, you can visit us at booth 5. We're right inside the entrance to the right-hand side. So again, thank you for taking your time out of your day to sit through this live lounge. Appreciate the efforts, lots of head nods. And so thank you again for everyone. And we look forward to speaking with you in the future. Thanks, everybody.